All right, recording has begun. Welcome to day 2 of Unit 1. We are with the team from Gahanna Middle School in Ohio. My name is Christine Holt, and I will be your facilitator today for the We the People National Invitational. In a moment, I will have the judges introduce themselves, followed by the students, and then we will begin the hearing. Students will deliver a 4-minute prepared statement, followed by 8 minutes of judge questions. My microphone will be muted during the hearing, and I will hold up 1 minute and time signs. I suggest that you use gallery view rather than speaker view, and all the students will appear at the top of the screen. At the conclusion of the hearing, judges will give brief feedback to the teams, and then we will conclude. Judges, the floor is yours.
Well, hello. I'm still Tim Moore from the University of Wisconsin in Madison, Wisconsin.
I'm Glipta Sangrider-Jones with the University of Louisville's McConnell Center. Good morning.
And I am still Alan Broadman, a recently retired high school teacher from East Brunswick, New Jersey. Looking forward to hearing what you guys have to talk to us about.
And you guys are?
Hello, I'm Aiden Pye. I am 8th grader at Gahanna Middle School South.
I am Tyler Hemmer, an 8th grader at Gahanna Middle School.
Hello, I'm Xavier Thompson, and I'm an 8th grader from Gahanna Middle School South.
Well, let's go right to question 2. If man in the state of nature be so free, as has been said, if he be absolute lord of his own person and possessions, equal to the greatest and subject to no one, why would he part with his freedom? Why will he subject himself to the dominion and control of any other power? How did John Locke answer these questions? According to Locke and Thomas Jefferson, what is natural law in a state of nature? Do you agree or disagree with their reasoning? Why or why not? Did Locke mean the social contract, or excuse me, what did Locke mean by the social contract, and why did he think it was necessary? What obligations does the social contract place on government and on the individual? You may begin.
John Locke's idea of what natural law was one of the key points that many founders used to create the Constitution. Locke's claim is that individuals have a duty to respect the rights of others, even in a state of nature. The socialist duty, he says, is natural law. This is just a basic understanding of his theory. One of the other things he talks about is the difference between divine law and natural law. He says that divine law is referring to the laws God revealed through his prophets and writers inspired by him, but it only applies to people whom it has been revealed to. However, natural law can be discovered with common sense and applies to all people. Thomas Jefferson says that natural rights are God-given, relating to divine law, and cannot be taken away by anyone. An example of this is when Thomas Jefferson said, "The minority possesses their equal rights, which equal law must protect, and to violate would be oppression." People in a state of nature, where people have the right to anything, follow moral values because there is no law in a state of nature. John Locke's view on natural rights in a state of nature are correct because, as John Locke said, the state of nature has a law of nature to govern it. Meaning, even though people are free to do almost anything they want, people, by human nature, will still value life, liberty, and property of all people.
A social contract is a theoretical contract between the governed and the governor. John Locke believed the social contract was a trade between a sovereign and its citizens to help ensure the rights of the people while also protecting the nation. To Locke, though, a government existed, among other things, for the good and to protect the life, liberty, and property of its people. For this reason, those who govern must be elected by the society, and the society must hold the power to stand when necessary. Locke thought a social contract was necessary to maintain the balance of power between the government and the people and create a better society. As Thomas Paine states, he did not enter society to become worse than he was before, not to have fewer rights than he had before, but to have those rights better secured. Which shows the purpose of a social contract is to protect the natural rights of the citizen and that people lead the state of nature and join the commonwealth in order to have those rights protected. A social contract, as said by Rousseau, makes a person lose his natural liberty and unlimited right to everything he tries to succeed in getting. What he gains is civil liberty and the proprietorship of all he possesses. John felt all this was necessary to protect the weak who could not protect their own natural rights and make sure that people can get protection.
In order to make sure that people consent to the government's protection, John Locke and other philosophers placed obligations on the government and the people when they wrote their social contracts. In Locke's social contract, he placed obligations on the people to trade the rights they had in the state of nature and assign power to a government in return for protection. Locke emphasizes that the only way political authority can be justified is through the consent over those whom authority is to be exercised. This is an example of a commitment that individuals make, giving up the right to do anything they want, or as Thomas Hobbes said, the mutual transferring of right. Social contracts also place strong obligations on the government. Locke believed that the government should make a commitment to enforce the law and serve the common protection of natural rights. According to Cambridge professor Ernest Barker, the social contract ensures good constitutionalism by binding the government to follow rules delegated by written law. However, Locke also agrees that the legitimacy of the government lied with the people, and that if a government did not obey its obligation in a social contract, the people had the right to overthrow or secede from the government. This can be seen in instances such as the Civil War, where South Carolina argued that it had the right to secede, as it had voluntarily came into the Union, and that the government had broken its social contract, the U.S. Constitution. The government did not keep its commitment to enforce the fugitive slave law, therefore South Carolina left. Social contracts, as shown, help make sure the government keeps their commitments and to make sure everyone is protected by the government.
Thank you. Alan, you want to start out?
Yeah, sure. So you talked a bit about this idea of rights and the social contract's purpose being arguably to protect those rights. Now, if that purpose, so the purpose is to protect rights, when can government limit those rights?
I believe that the government is able to, when they're able to limit the rights of the people, are when the people, as we know, the government and the people have a social contract between each other. The government has to follow that, but so does the people. And if the people are not following their social contract that they agreed to upon with the government has the ability to enforce more laws or enforce or take away their rights, or some, not all, but some.
I think that the government has the right to limit those rights when it poses a danger or threat to other people. For example, you can look at people's right to assembly. If people are gathering to perform like a dangerous act that's to harm the others, for example, you can look at the January 6th. You can look at the January 6th riots. People came to gather in assembly in a protest, but eventually it turned violent. I think in instances such as that, the government then has the right to limit those rights.
Do you think there's any state of natures today anywhere?
I don't think that there are any state of natures today anywhere, because most of society is living under a government, and those governments already have social contracts that are in place.
Well, you used the word most. So let me follow up on that. You didn't say all. Now, does that mean that there's the possibility that there is a state of nature somewhere? Now, and that's to everybody, not just Xavier.
It could be a possibility that there is a country that has, or a state of nature somewhere.
Yeah. So how would you recognize that? Oh, that's a state of nature. I mean, what are you looking at to say,
Well, a state of nature is when there is a place or a place that doesn't have a government that is keeping this place in check.
What I think my teammate is trying to say is that in a state of nature, there is no social contract. Therefore, people will follow their moral values in order to have like the rights, the natural rights they have of like life, liberty, and property. They rely on moral values to protect them. So there is a possibility that there is a state of nature somewhere out there where there is no social contract binding the government and the people.
Thank you.
All right. What do you think? What should people have the right to do if government is not serving the purposes for which it was created? What should people have the right to do if government isn't doing what it was designed to do?
They the instances where the founders of the Constitution, they didn't like how in the Articles of Confederation, they didn't like how they like how they had more power than the national government, and so therefore they came together and had the Constitutional Convention for the Constitution.
I agree with my teammate. Going off what Tyler said. I think people have the right to secede or try and replace the government. As he said, the founding fathers thought that England wasn't treating them right and had broken their social contract, and they in turn they seceded away from England. You can also see this an example as the Confederacy. They thought that the Union had broken their social contract, with it being the U.S. Constitution, and in turn they also seceded.
So
So
Lincoln got it wrong.
Can you repeat that?
Sure. So Lincoln got it wrong. Lincoln should not have attempted to keep the southern states in. They had a right to walk away and say, I'm out of here.
I do not think that Lincoln got it wrong. As when my teammate said that, like the southern states felt that they needed to secede was because they felt that their social contract was being broken, because the North they didn't want slaves in their country, but the South wanted slaves in their country. And so as when the South is they like felt that they were pushing back against. Go ahead, Xavier.
I think what my teammate trying to say is that I don't necessarily think Lincoln got it wrong. I think that I think that the Confederacy felt like they were being felt that the I think the Confederacy felt like the social contract was broken, and it was in some parts, but I feel like the Union didn't entirely violate it, and that it wasn't more of us. They did indeed completely violate their social contract, but the South felt like they had violated in some parts and then seceded.
So you all have used this example of to secede or to replace. I'm going to throw another one out there. What about a right to revolt? Do you think citizens should have the right to revolt, or the right to secede, or to replace? Should we have those rights? What do you think?
I do agree that we should have these rights.
Why do you think so?
Because if the government does not honor their part of the social contract of protecting its natural rights, the citizens will end up feeling violated, and that will just lead to like the social contract not being honored.
Let me ask you this: do you think when America declared its independence is the same as the South declaring their independence? I mean, do you see? I mean, I want some clarification there. Are they the same thing? The American Revolution and Southern secession. If they're different, what's the difference? If they're the same, why?
I believe that they are different because when the United States declared their independence, England was not treating them right. They were harming them and violating their rights. However, the reason that the South seceded was because the North had a different viewpoint on slavery, and they felt, oh, they don't think like us. We should become a new country. So that's why I believe that they are different.
Thank you. Good job, guys. Good job. We'll spend a little time offering some feedback here. Who wants to start out here?
Sure,
I guess I will.
Oh.
No.
go for it, Tim.
Okay. Guys, don't worry about that. We're pushing. There's a reason we're pushing you. And the reason is very simple. People that we respect, we're going to push. It's a sign of respect, not of disrespect, because we're pushing you further and further and further, really wanting to get into this. Now don't worry, because we got into a scary spot there. The American Revolution is the same as Southern secession. So we got into some really, really cool stuff, and we're pushing on you, not because we want to be mean. It's a sign of how sophisticated can you be in your understanding of this really gray area of alter or abolish. So don't worry that it may feel like we were kind of, getting in your face, but relax. That's a tribute to you in your initial statement that kind of, at least for me, said, okay, well, let's really go after this and see how high you can go. So I wanted to be clear about that at least in my, and I don't know about Alan because he's a lot meaner than I am, but no, for me, I really appreciate being able to push a little bit on this stuff. So thank you very much. It's been good to meet you in the last couple of days.
I agree. I found your opening statement really interesting. Bringing out, you're the first group to bring out secession here, and I appreciated hearing that and your perspectives there, and again throwing those questions out, thinking about, well, what are the differences? What are those mechanisms, those rights? What do they look like in different contexts? So you all are wrestling with some really, really big ideas here, and so really enjoyed that part of the conversation. I also liked your attention to minority rights and protecting the minority in your opening statement. That part really rang true, or really clear in your presentation. So I appreciate your emphasis there and bringing that thought throughout. Again, just encourage you all to find more of those examples. Think of someone mentioned the January 6th riots. Think of the contemporary instances. How does this relate today? And you all were bringing out the examples. Just continue to bring out examples and think about historical moments, contemporary moments as you all move forward. And we really appreciate the effort and time you all put in these last couple of days. So thank you for all that hard work.
Yeah, I agree. This is a tough question. There are so many aspects to this question and so many things to talk about that it becomes very difficult. I would ask you, when you're looking at this, let's use that secession one, embrace the fact that there are two arguments on each side, well, there are multiple arguments, but two general arguments on each side. Run with them, okay? The South legitimately believed they had a right to secede. Legitimately, they didn't think they were doing something behind people's back. Lincoln felt completely different. So embrace the fact that there's going to be different views on this. Okay. So I think that I think you laid that out. I would see that coming. You talked about secession, think we're going to jump on it and prep out those arguments for saying, okay, so if they ask us about this, what are we going to talk about? But I thought that in response to my first question, I mean, yeah, the bottom line is that this is all about how it affects other individuals. So I thought that was good. And again, overall, guys, I think you did a nice job and on what I think is an exceedingly difficult question. So thank you very much.